and that is the newest addition to the WCC, not UC San Diego, but the Seattle Redhawks, who will be playing this year in the West Coast Conference. They're coming over from the WAC. Last year, they went 14-18, 8-8 in league play. But this was a squad that also had wins over Washington, had wins over UC San Diego. So this was a team that showed capability to get some really good wins, despite the fact that they had what was probably an underwhelming season overall. Head coach Chris Victor, this is his 5th year as the head coach of Seattle, his 9th overall with Seattle U. And before last year, they were running on a streak of 3 straight 20-win seasons. So there had been extended success from this program in the WAC. And this was someone who also is familiar with WCC coaches. He was on the same staff at Eastern Washington with Shantae Leggins and with David Riley. So there is some level of comfort with some of the coaching staffs. There is, even though Seattle has not played a whole lot of WCC teams over the last few years, there's not going to be a huge leap, I don't think, on the comfort level at the WCC level, because they still did have to play the likes of Washington, UC San Diego, Grand Canyon, Utah Valley over the last few years. So while it is a step up overall for the league, and I think we're going to see that in what Seattle has brought in to this point, it's not, I don't think Seattle's going to be like, there's going to be phased at all in their early transition.
I think, honestly, the phrase that comes to mind for what Seattle can be is they can be a pain in the butt to everybody. I think that's really what sticks out to me, is the way they play defense, the way they crash the glass, the way they play hard. And I know you think of some of the other teams in the WCC, that's like kind of the identity. St. Mary's, for example, like it's going to be defense. It's going to be the intensity. It's going to be the fundamentals. And for Seattle, I think you make a trip up to the Pacific Northwest playing in the Red Hawk gymnasium. Like they can drag you into a mud fight. And I think it remains to be seen how some of those teams would kind of like interact. So like you mentioned David Riley, like if last year's Washington State team played Seattle, I would probably take Seattle just by the way they play and the way Washington State, when they got taken out of things, it kind of just fell out from the underside. So in this case, I look at Seattle, even though they play a climate pledge for some games, it's like they can drag teams into the mud, and they can be, kind of in the same realm as an LMU, where you're like, man, I bit off more than I bargained for on a game like today. So I think that's kind of what I look for with them, like their defensive identity, because they know who they are. They don't try and stray too far away from it. And when you're going into a new conference, you kind of have to almost double down and embrace who you are, because if you try and change too much, like, oh no, we're going to face these guys who are supposedly a lot better, our stuff's not going to work. Well, then you kind of already started the battle on the back foot. So that's one of the few things I really want to see from Seattle, how they impose their will to start the season and start conference play, and kind of how teams kind of interact with how Seattle can potentially bring them into some low scoring affairs.
So you bring up that, and then thinking about what they were able to bring in to kind of help that defense. The first name that comes off the board in my mind is Brock Felder, because this is a guy at Southern Utah who really was one of the better defenders in that conference. 5.8 points, 6.2 rebounds. He led the WAC with over 2 blocks a game. So this is someone who's going to be able to really lock down in the interior. And for a lot of, again, we talk about, you need to have that defensive presence. You need to have that strong front line, and Seattle has the building blocks of that. You bring in Brock Felder as a huge part of that. Bring in Austin Maurer coming from Grand Canyon. And this is a kid who's from the Pacific Northwest. He was a former Gatorade Player of the Year in the state of Oregon. He didn't get a whole lot of playing time when he was with the Lopes, but coming up to Seattle, he's going to get more of that playing time. He's going to get more opportunity. And you kind of get a little bit of that mixed match of someone who's going to be more the offensive guy and someone who's going to be more the defensive guy for the Seattle squad. And even on the perimeter, there's some legit defensive presence from one of the returners, Malik Arrington. 7 points, 4.5 assists. But this is a guy who's been an all-league defensive player in 2 different leagues. So this is someone on the perimeter is going to be able to get at it, get after it. And just when you start going up and down the Seattle roster, this is going to be a tough, gritty roster. Another one of those guys, Brayden Maldonado, who we got a chance to talk to, we'll play the interview in a little bit, is also another one of those guys who like oozes the Seattle personality for what Chris Victor wants this team to be. This is going to be, they're probably going to be involved in more rock fights than you think, and almost probably going to be talking about maybe a WCC comparison. Maybe not as flashy at times, but kind of maybe somewhere between St. Mary's and LMU is the style of what we might see from a Seattle squad.
Yeah, and then you think of we talked to Brayden Maldonado, and kind of like the duo of him and John Christophilus are trying just to showcase what all these new transfers that you mentioned of what the Seattle standard is. And when you have extended success of 3 20-plus win seasons, it's hard to not deny the fundamental facts of, okay, these guys kind of know what they're doing. They know what they're talking about. And I can put my full faith that if I do my best, that we're going to be in at least a good position to win. So I think of all those factors combined, and I think of where they are probably going to stack up in the mid pack. You can think of them on you can, okay, not to say they will, but you can think of them on an LMU tier of, it requires your best effort. And if you don't bring your best effort, you can easily be spat out the other side with a loss.
Now, I mean, you brought up LMU. I think LMU is a great example of like when you think about how hard it was for teams to go to LMU, go to Gersten Pavilion and get a win. It was a tough building to play in last year. They beat Santa Clara. They beat Oregon State. They took St. Mary's down to the wire. It's like they really played well at home. And I do think that that's something very similar that we could see from Seattle at playing in the Redhawks Center, especially when you're thinking about like that tight environment. This is a building whose capacity is listed at 999. So this is a small building that they will be playing in for those games. Yes, they do play some of their contests over at Climate Pledge Arena. Those will be probably for some of the bigger games you'd imagine. Probably Gonzaga, St. Mary's might be playing over there for that one. Do know that they will be playing at least a couple of squads over at Climate Pledge. So that'll be fun to see them in that building. But there's also some familiar names for WCC folks in here, or at least one in particular, and that is Jun Suk-yo coming over from Gonzaga will be on this squad. And this is another guy who really just did not get an opportunity to play at Gonzaga, obviously because there's a lot of depth on that squad. But now we're going to be able to see if he's going to get a shot to show what he's capable of doing. We've seen what he can do in international competition, and now it'll be his real opportunity to get on the floor and show what he can do.
Yeah, and I don't know if you want to temper expectations for Junio, but it's important to understand that when you have your first long runway of playing time, there will be bumps in the road. And you think of kind of who he was within the Gonzaga fandom at times, and even internationally, he's kind of a fan favorite already. So to see kind of like what opportunity he's going to have to play with under Chris Victor, I think for a fact that he's going to have to earn his playing time. Like there's going to be no sugarcoating about it. So his improvement on the defensive end of the floor will kind of take him as far as he can go in terms of making the Seattle rotation and being a mainstay. Because I think it's kind of almost implicitly understood, okay, he can be a shooter if you give him enough space. But what else is he going to do on the floor if he's either not shooting well or not getting the space to? Can you contribute in other ways to winning with your gravity on the offensive end, or two, can you find a way to make an impact on defense? So whether that's stealing the ball or even funneling down the right way, it's just those little things add up. And that's what I want to see out of Junio.
And when we do see that, I mean, like you look down at St. Mary's with Randy Bennett, and like at this stage, it's like if you don't play defense, you don't see the floor. So it could very much be, again, there's a lot of competition on that Seattle squad for minutes. There's a lot of players who are going to be vying for playing time, and there are going to be some guys who are sitting on the bench whom you might think probably should have gotten more or a little bit more of a chance or whatnot, because I think the Seattle team is going to just be pretty deep at certain spots, especially I think at the guard positions. There's going to be a lot of competition for those minutes. But as we kind of get into this, as we're starting to talk about it, let's go to our interview with Brayden Maldonado, and he can talk a little bit more about what we should expect from the Redhawks going into the season.
Great. Have a long season, so you get a couple weeks off, but we were all excited to really get back and really meet each other. A lot of new guys here, and since we've all been back, we've really gelled well together. The chemistry's been great. Very intense practices, so it's been a lot of fun being back with some of the guys from last year and meeting a lot of the new guys. It's been a lot of fun this summer.
And Brayden, you kind of, for us in the media, we're never going to know what it's like, and maybe it's just boring and it's another day at the office. But you're playing in the WAC. You're transitioning to the WCC. Is there anything different from, say, practice on June 30th to practice on July 2nd, either from your perspective, Coach Victor's perspective? Like, what have you guys been experiencing now that you'll be in a new league for this upcoming season?
That's a good question. I wouldn't say a lot has changed. I mean, in the summer, obviously, there's a certain amount of hours you're allowed to work out and stuff like that, time-wise. But I feel like for us, we kept the same intensity. We know the WAC's a tough conference, as well as going into the WCC is going to be a tough conference. I think we've kept the intensity. I think our practices have even jumped up a level with intensity. I think we know we're heading into a tough conference, and it's going to be a really fun year. So it's going to be a new challenge for us, and I think we haven't taken any of it lightly, and we're ready.
And you do have, again, you mentioned a lot of the new guys that are going to be on this roster, and you brought up a couple of guys who were in the WAC with you, obviously Brock Felder, and then also Austin Maurer coming over from Grand Canyon. So you do have some of those familiar faces. And you talked about just how the level of competition in practice has kind of ramped up. Do you think that this team is maybe a little bit deeper than where you were a year ago? Obviously, like you guys were 14 and 18 a year ago, but it really seems like that the roster as a whole is a lot deeper than it was a year ago, and there's going to be definitely a step back up this season.
Yeah, for sure. I think, like you said, we added guys who were in the WAC with us last year, which are going to be a huge help. Those two big guys with Austin and Brock, as well as adding some other guys depth-wise, which was very helpful. I also think just guys coming back like Malik, it was his first year here as well with me. Just guys, with another year under their belt, playing together under the system. I think it's going to be a big step for everybody. Guys with experience, guys coming in who have played with us and against us and stuff like that. So I think the depth is definitely going to help this year, as well as all of us kind of having another year under our belt, under the same program, playing with each other and stuff like that. So I think it's going to be really fun.
So as you're adding new guys, obviously a lot of what college athletics is a team from last year is not the same team that walks in the building day one of the following season. But what's it kind of like, almost setting the standard, so to speak, for what Seattle basketball is going to be alongside guys like John Christophoulos? Like, what's it like showcasing of what you guys want to demand from yourselves in order to try and be the best version of you guys over the course of this year?
I think it starts kind of with the intensity part that I brought in. Guys coming in, like you said, they're your teammates. You want to welcome them, but when we're in practice, we're going at each other. You know what I'm saying? We're going hard, and just letting guys know that we play hard over here. We play defense. You know what I'm saying? We really do it all. So just when guys come in, I'm saying welcome them with open arms, but also like going at guys. That's how you get better, is competition and intensity, like I said. And if one guy brings it, we all rise to that occasion. So I think just guys coming back, letting people know that like we're about it here, like we're intense and we're going to play hard and we're going to love you because you're our teammates. But when we're in practice, we're going at each other and we're going to get better.
And one of the things going into this year, because again, like you're one of the returners on this squad with a handful of others, how has maybe your role changed now that you were kind of the more experienced one under Coach Victor's system and on that Seattle campus? How has that kind of role changed for you as you've been working with your new teammates?
Yeah. I would say I've came into more of a leadership role. I would say I'm being a lot more vocal. I think it's kind of normal for guys. Like my last year was my first year to come in, kind of to try to get comfortable and try to feel everybody out. You don't want to step on anybody's toes and stuff like that. But I think I really found my voice at the end of last year, just being vocal, keeping the guys' heads together, mental space, just making sure guys are ready and locked in. So I think this year, me, like I said, having a year under my belt and coming in, kind of knowing what's expected from me, I think I've taken a big step in the vocal leadership role, as well as, making sure guys are doing what they're supposed to do, even on campus, like classes, stuff like that, teaching the new guys who have came around. So I think I just came more comfortable in my area and with my surroundings. So it kind of gave me a voice, where I'm confident and I can speak, with authority and stuff like that. The guys can respect me and stuff. So
I kind of want to follow up to that answer, because everyone's leadership path is different. It's not natural to everybody. And kind of comparing yourself to your high school days, does leadership come naturally for you now, or do you even at this level, do you still have to kind of like quote unquote like find it, or have like a coach tell you, say, hey, go take charge of this? Or how did leadership come to you in a Seattle Redhawks uniform?
I think last year, we kind of struggled with someone who was really always vocal. And I think that's just kind of where it started at. You know, some days you come in, you're tired of practicing, and it's real quiet in the gym, and everyone knows quiet gyms are losing gyms. So I don't know. I kind of just, whether I was playing, whether I wasn't, whether I was doing well, whether I wasn't, I tried to just bring as much energy as possible. And I think that's kind of where it started for me. As you said, like in high school as well. I think some of those down days, like you can feel the energy in the gym. I would just come in and try to crack a joke or something, or, you know what I'm saying, just be loud so people can just, you know, turn up, you know, be positive and stuff like that. So I think it kind of started with me just being super vocal and trying to get the energy up in the gym. And then once I see, you know, everyone feeds off that, I kind of just keep it going. And Coach Victor said he liked what I was doing. So, I mean, I kind of just kept with that. You know what I'm saying? People benefited from it. So I kind of just took that upon myself to just keep it going and being consistent with that. I think that's the biggest thing, is being consistent.
Now, one of the new things for a lot of those of us who cover the WCC, follow the WCC, is we're going to get to two new buildings, not only the Redhawks Center, but also, because you guys do play games over at Climate Pledge Arena. Just kind of talk about the energy and the excitement that there is around the campus, and what WCC fans should expect coming into Seattle for your games.
Yeah, I mean, the Redhawks Center, it's rowdy. It gets nice. It gets nice and loud in there. It's not a huge gym, which I kind of like, but I think it plays into our favor, because, you know, we can pack it out with all the Redhawk fans, because they love coming to games and they're loud. So at the Redhawks Center, you can definitely expect a lot of red and hear it to be really loud. And then at Climate Pledge, it's just it's a brand new, beautiful arena as well. And people can't wait. They hear the Climate Pledge games and everyone goes running. So it's going to be a lot of fun coming to Seattle. The energy is always great. Fans are always great, and it's always going to be a good time and a good game.
Do you have to make almost any adjustments trying to shoot in those different like style of gyms per se, different like depth perception, different backgrounds? What's the transition like, if at all, between the Redhawks Center and then going towards CPA and trying to still try and give buckets?
Yeah, it's a little different. I think the pregame shoot around always helps. You get in there, because we get in there and get a lot of shots up, so you can kind of feel if you're shooting it too hard, shooting it too, like, you know, you can feel the difference. So I think the pregame shoot around definitely always helps. But for me, I try to just keep it out of my head. I try to think that every gym's the same, and I'm just shooting the same way. I don't want to put a little mental block in there that, you know, probably isn't there in real life. So I kind of just try to keep it all the same for me. But I think the pregame shoot arounds help a lot. You can kind of feel how your jumper's feeling, where you're shooting out on the floor and stuff like that. So I think that helps for sure.
Now, one of the things, obviously, like a lot of the WCC gyms are also not too big. Like, you have, most of them are somewhere between 6,000 to 4,000 seat facilities. So no other gym is going to be all that big. But talking about also just the competition level in the WCC versus the WAC. Obviously, there were some really good teams in the WAC, at Grand Canyon, Utah Valley, like in their tournament level quality teams. You come to a league with Gonzaga, St. Mary's, San Francisco, and these are teams who have obviously are either every year tournament teams or teams who have been in the tournament recently. As you kind of like start to prep for that level of competition in a new league, what sort of like excitement, or how has maybe the practices changed, knowing that you do have a lot of teams who are, especially in certain cases, are established college basketball names and brands?
Yeah, for sure. I think, like you touched on, moving into a bigger conference, you would say, with teams who are always in the tournament and really big names. I think it's super exciting. I mean, when you're in college and in the pros, really anywhere, you want to play against the best teams, you know, so you want to see where you stack up against. And I think you playing against the best will raise your level to be the best. So I think for us, it's super exciting going there, being the first year here, playing a lot of the teams that we haven't played before, knowing how good they are and how historic they are. I think it's really exciting for us, and it really puts a chip on our shoulder, you know, because it's going to be our first year here. We're coming from the WAC, probably a smaller school, you could say. But I think a lot of us are really excited. And like kind of what you said, to touch on the practices, been super locked into details, small details. And like I said, the intensity, we kind of know what we're going into, and we're trying to prepare right now as much as we can to play those teams.
You mentioned in that answer, like raising the level. Who are some of those guys that maybe we're not familiar with that you are seeing in practice day by day that have raised their level exponentially and are going to earn their way onto having a lot of playing time during WCC games this year?
Yeah, for sure. I think a kid named Rayvon Adams, he redshirted for us last year, young freshman. He's about 6'8", long arms, great athlete, and the kid just plays really hard. So he does everything asked. He does that. He does all the right things. So I think Ray will earn himself a lot of minutes as well. And JoJo Murphy as well, new kid coming in, Division II transfer. Shoots the ball really well, plays hard. I think he'll earn a lot of minutes as well. So those two guys, I'm really excited, as well as we have a lot of utility guys who can play everywhere and guys who play the right way and play hard. So there'll be a lot of minutes to go around for sure. And I'm excited to see everybody on the court.
Yeah. And as you're starting to, again, there's a lot of new guys, a lot of new faces. And with this squad, and we talked to Coach Victor a little bit about a month or so ago about what the personality of his teams have been. And it really does seem like this is, even based off last year, this is going to be defensive-minded team. This is going to be a scrappier team, tougher team. Kind of talk about just like what the mentality or the personality seems to be right now. Because obviously year to year, teams' personalities can change and those start to meld from one to the next. But what does it feel like right now, like what the personality of the squad's going to be?
Yeah, I think like Coach Victor said, and kind of what you touched on. I mean, we're defense. That's what we're about. We play hard. We're gonna get on loose balls. We're gonna play defense. We're gonna pick you up full court. We're gonna be aggressive. We're gonna rebound, and then we're gonna try to get out and transition and run. I think for us, shooting doesn't always travel. One thing that can always travel is effort and defense. And I think, on some of those nights where you're not shooting the ball that well, if you can get those stops, you can win a lot of games. And I think defense has showed really through all levels in the NCAA tournament, really everywhere. The teams that defend are the teams that go far. So for us, we always hang our hat on defense. That's something we harp on all the time in practice. And I think that's why we're one of the better defensive teams in the nation.
And you think of Seattle defense, I think some of those other defining characteristics you mentioned, rebound and run, because it all works together in symmetry, so to speak. I do want to kind of peel back the curtain a little bit towards your experience at Seattle and kind of what's been the most rewarding part about being a Redhawk so far, and kind of like we have not seen or really experienced the Pacific Northwest as much as we can as WCC media members, but kind of like peel the curtain for us of what has been the most rewarding part about being either in the Seattle area, being part of the Seattle program, or just in general your experience.
Yeah, I mean, it's been great. I mean, I'm a kid from Alaska, so I've been here quite a bit. Just, traveling and playing basketball at AU and stuff like that. But now there's a lot of love in the city for sure, especially in the area that we're at. People show a lot of love. People are always coming out to support. People always want to see us do well. And I think that's one of the most rewarding factors in our home games. Like I said, we don't have a huge arena, but people always come to show love after the games. There's kids always wanting to talk to you about the game, want to sign something, as well as some of the camps we put on in the summer. Kids always love to come back and watch games. And I think for me, that's always a fun thing. So I remember when I was a kid, I used to look up to all the college players and always wanted to play like them and, go to games and just talk to them. So I just think after the games, we're talking to younger kids, elementary school kids about basketball and just how happy they are to see us play. I think that's a super rewarding thing for me, just being a young kid. And I've always loved basketball. So I think for me in the area, just all the love that the community shows, it means a lot.
I love that. Some of the best parts aren't even when you're tipping the ball off and going and playing for 40 hard minutes. So yeah. I like that.
And I mean, one of the things, you touched on, like the support you get in Seattle. I mean, Seattle's a basketball town. Like it always feels like regardless if it's high school, college, pros, like that is a basketball town. Like when you talk, what's kind of been that vibe, like an experience, like kind of being part of the basketball community there in Seattle, because there is such a rich history of just great players coming out of the region.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like you said, it is a basketball town. There's always basketball everywhere. You can always find guys hooping, and I think for me, like the community is very welcoming, especially if you play basketball. Like everyone knows you. Everyone wants to say what's up. Everyone's cool with everyone. No one's too big, or even some of the pro guys who come back, they come around and everyone's always, super interactive with each other, always meeting new people and stuff like that. So like you said, I mean, the town loves basketball and they always want to be around basketball, always want to watch basketball and always want to talk about it. And for me, that's lovely because I love basketball as well. So it's super fun to be around and it's always good vibes in the gym, just about anywhere you are in Seattle.
And one more regionality question, if you will. What's it like going back to Alaska? And because I covered a different team down here in the Bay Area for football, and there's an Alaskan on that team, and there's always like a different type of vibe when you go home. It's like, oh my God, these guys have, so to speak, are making a name for themselves outside of the region. What kind of like the vibe when you get to go home ever so often and say, hey, here's an Alaskan making a name for himself. I'm Brayden Maldonado. You're about to know my name.
Yeah, I mean, I think. Especially being from where I'm from in the city, it's not too many people who, make a name or really play college basketball or even a college sport in general. So for me, I always kind of took it as a challenge. Like, I'm going to be one of the kids that people hear about, you know what I'm saying? People know about, oh, well, Brayden's at Seattle. I'm going to go follow Seattle basketball now. You know what I mean? So
right.
I think for me, it's super fun going back and getting all the love from everybody and all the young kids at the Boys and Girls Club that I used to go to and stuff like that. Like, they know who I am and they can look up to me and I can try to help guide them and share my experience and share some of the knowledge I've learned. Because basketball can take you a bunch of places. And that's kind of just what I want to tell the kids. Like, it can get you out of Alaska. It can take you all around the world. So just don't be afraid to pick up a basketball, a soccer ball, a baseball, really, really anything. But just go all in at it. And you never know where it can take you. So I think going back to the city, talking to the kids, some of my old high school teachers, stuff like that, it's always fun. And I kind of carry it with pride.
As you should.
All right. As we start to wrap it up, we're going to do a quick some rapid fire questions at you just to kind of get to know you a little bit better. So first one is going to be, who's a player you model your game after most?
D'Angelo Russell.
All right. Favorite Seattle food?
I guess Seattle dog. Seattle dog.
Seattle dog. All right. Favorite late night snack?
Late night snack. I'll probably go like some Doritos, like some chips or something.
So are we going like the spicy nacho, or are we going like Cooler Ranch, or what's kind of like the Dorito direction?
I like the Cool Ranch. I like Cool Ranch. I'll go with Cool Ranch.
+1 on that one.
Yeah.
Best Seattle pro sports environment. So Seahawks, Mariners, Storm, Sounders, Kraken. Who's got the best environment?
I did go to a Seahawks preseason game and it was basically sold out. So I would say the Seahawks.
Morning person or night owl?
Night owl.
And I'm the +1 on that one. I will stay awake until way too late and then pay for it in the morning. And then lastly, what do you do to relax?
I like to watch shows. I like to kind of just throw something on and just kind of relax in my bed, working out, lifting and stuff. You kind of just want to chill. So I like to watch shows, TV, stuff like that.
What do you have? What are you watching right now?
Currently, I'm finishing up Snowfall. I'm on like the last season of Snowfall, and then I was watching The Sopranos as well.
That'll do.
Really, yeah,
that's a good rotation.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks a lot, Brayden, for hopping on with us and talking some Seattle basketball. Exciting to have the Redhawks in the WCC, and we will. The season starts in just about 2 months, and Brayden. So again, thanks a lot for hopping on, and we will definitely catch you down the road.
Yes, sir. Thank you, guys. I really appreciate it.
All right, I want to thanks Brayden Maldonado one more time for hopping on and chatting with us. I mean, this Seattle team, again, he pointed it out. Coach Victor's talked about it, that this is going to be a defensive first team, and there aren't too many of those in the WCC. There's going to be a lot of teams, and we know that are kind of like offensive first, but there aren't too many teams that have like their personality is defense. They're going to get down, they're going to get scrappy, but the Seattle team is going to be one of them.
I wholeheartedly agree. And I think for me, at least, when you know that defense and the way it travels, to me, that signifies a higher floor. I'm a big proponent of like being a floor guy versus a ceiling guy. So you go on the road, you're at Seattle. It's like it's going to be hard for a lot of teams, and vice versa. You're at home, you're having a bad shooting night on its own. You're not getting much respite having to go up against the Redhawk defense to combat that as well. So when you like ask kind of like San Diego, what's their floor, what's their ceiling? I think their range is a little bit smaller, but I do think it's better. At least for now, at least the way I look at it. Like I think Seattle's floor is like 8th, and then I could give them like 5th or 6th as their ceiling. I think it's just a little bit more compact compared to your San Diego floor ceiling dynamic. And I just think in general that with the way Seattle plays, they can always bring themselves to be in the game. Now, whether they have enough offense to close out those games is another discussion. But in general, you play defense, you're going to be in games at least for the bulk of them.
Yeah, so this is where I'm going to be a little bit bullish on Seattle because I think I have their range kind of similar where it's a little bit smaller, but I think it's 4 to 8. I think their ceiling is higher than I do have San Diego's. I do think that the Seattle squad, because the defense is an item that travels, that this is going to bode well for this team. Also, again, like also like kind of like thinking about just the number of guys that they have that are proven defensive stalwarts elsewhere. Brock Felder, Malik Arrington, Miles Amos. Like this team has a lot of really good defenders on it. So I like the fact that they have that opportunity. The shooting you brought up is going to be the challenge. They only shot 41% from the field last year, which would have been second to last in the WCC. But a lot of the players from last year's squad are not on this year's squad. So I do think that there is at least like an opportunity for us to see that improve as we go in. Now, as far as like maybe realistic, maybe it's probably a little bit more middle of the pack. Maybe they finish 6th, like maybe they finish 7th. That's probably the more realistic option of what Seattle is going to be in year 1 in the WCC. But the one thing I'm looking at as far as a storyline when I think about Seattle is going to be that defense, because I think there's a chance that they could be the best defense in the WCC that is not in Moraga.
Okay. Okay. You had me.
After St. Mary's, this could be the best defensive team in the WCC. And that is going to be the storyline for me to watch to see if indeed we see this defense travel. This is able to surpass the non-conference, get into conference play, and sustain through the year. The new league is going to be a challenge. But it's going to be both ways. None of the WCC teams are all that familiar with Seattle, so it's going to be a brand new experience for them as well as they start to try to game plan and really get a feel for what this Red Hawk team is going to be in the WCC.
I think there's just really just a lot to like about what Seattle can bring to the table, and that's not necessarily an agreed upon stance when you think of every single team in the WCC, and especially on its debut season. So I think Seattle, they're going to put their best foot forward on a consistent basis, which I think is going to serve them well. And I think, like we both mentioned, like, can the rest of it kind of catch up? And if it does, then I think it really changes the calculus for what year 1 Chris Victor in the WCC and his Red Hawk squad could look like.